My mom said I can't eat your food.
Alright. For Judging Judy. Alright.
Hello, I'm so glad you made it to Judging Judy, the world's first and hopefully only podcast that turns the tables on America's least favorite TV judge to decide if Judge Judy Shineland is guilty or innocent, but she's usually guilty. As always, we'll have a play-by-play of an old episode of Judge Judy, and then I'll share my verdict for how Judy did, whether she provided justice to the people in the courtroom, to us at home, and to the world at large. But first, to address the elephant in the room, I suggest grabbing a handful of peanuts, climbing up a stepladder, and whispering into its big giant ears, "Hello, Miss Elephant, I'd like to be friends." Today's case is from an episode way back in 1998, and well, I'm assuming you don't have the famed memory of an aforementioned elephant, so let's check in with Professor Wikipedia to see what was going on back on November 3rd, 1998. The gubernatorial election was held in Florida with Democratic nominee Buddy McKay losing to Republican Nepo baby Jeb Bush. You may remember Jeb Bush from stealing the 2000 presidential election in favor of his brother, and then repeatedly losing in his own attempts to win the Republican nomination for president. You Get What You Give was released by the New Radicals, or as you might better know them, the Guy in the Bucket Hat. Among its accolades are number 64 on VH1's 2002 Greatest One-Hit Wonder list, number 90 on VH1's 100 Greatest Songs of the 90 list, number 440 on Blender's list of the 500 Greatest Songs Since You Were Born, and 106th on Pitchfork's Top 200 Tracks of the 90s. However, again, you might best remember that as a song by the Guy with the Bucket Hat. Buzz Lightyear's Space Ranger Spin, a dark ride that allows park guests to shoot laser beams at various targets, opened at Walt Disney World in Orlando, Florida. The success of the ride has since led to it being replicated at Disney parks in California, Paris, and Shanghai, ensuring that children the world over get better at shooting guns in the dark. Great job, Professor Wikipedia. It was almost good enough to make me forget that you got that doctorate in homeopathy. Now let's take a look at who was on Wheel of Fortune that day back in 1998, care of Wheel of Fortune with Andy Wynn, a really interesting website. Let's see, we had Katrina, who is a bank officer, married with 3 kids, who practices Taekwondo and is from Houston. We had Maggie from Santa Monica. She's an actor and interpreter for Spanish who likes seeing Latin jazz bands. And we had David, who's a morning talk show radio host who got married 3 days ago. It was supposed to be 2, but because of the show, their honeymoon was moved to 2 days. Maggie absolutely demolished David and Katrina, taking home over $44,000 and becoming the first person who likes jazz to ever be considered a winner. Finally, let's check in with the box office for 11/3/98. Our top 3 movies in reverse order were How Stella Got Her Groove Back, Saving Private Ryan, and Ants, that is A-N-T-Z. Ants, you probably don't remember, had an ensemble cast which was led by Woody Allen. In the movie, Woody Allen's character eventually wins the girl, Princess Bala, as voiced by Sharon Stone. The age difference between Woody Allen and Sharon Stone, 22 years, is much smaller than that of Allen and his real-life wife, Suni Previn, 44 years. Suni, the adopted daughter of Allen's former long-term girlfriend Mia Farrow, was 27 years old when she married Allen in 1997, the year before Ants was released. Woody was 63. That's enough ant talk. Let's hop into this week's case.
I told her that I had started dating other people when she had moved out of the house.
We open with a man who has a big belt buckle, a deep widow's peak, and an exciting love life. If you remember Saved by the Bell the college years, who am I kidding? Of course you remember Saved by the Bell the college years. This guy, he looks a little like Bob Golick's character, Mike Rogers from the show, but with more of a Mr. Potato Head aesthetic.
At that point, I figured the engagement was over.
They say that if you truly love someone, let them free, and then start dating other people.
He pulled out of the wedding.
How is it that even in 1998, people still thought the pullout method was effective?
Now he wants the ring back.
Oh no, that's super easy. You just hit *69.
Everything seemed fine until she came into the picture.
We pan from the defendant to another woman, presumably the homewrecker, Presumably the plaintiff's witness, who, by being the woman to catch this man, proves that you can win the battle even while you lose the war. I'm properly teased, let's get to the case. Our plaintiff, Mark, is a 33-year-old construction supervisor.
I'm a construction worker.
The defendant isn't just his ex-fiancée, Jacqueline is the mother of his child. Mark is suing for the return of the engagement ring he gave Jacqueline. But if he gets the ring back, Jacqueline's "he got me pregnant and all I got was a stupid ring" shirt won't make any sense. Jacqueline contends that the ring was a Mother's Day gift, not an engagement ring. No telling yet if Jacqueline brought the jewelry into fake court or if she left her ring pop at home.
I'm trying to figure out the chronology in this case, Mr. Hovey.
Time after time.
We start with Mark confirming that he and Jacqueline have a child together. If you're making your own chronology for this case at home, get your timelines ready. The kid is 4. That means that sometime within the prior 4 years and 9 months or so, Jacqueline and Mark had sex. Perhaps, and I'm only guessing here, more than once.
I'd rather not think about that.
So I'm just writing this down here on my own chronology. February-ish, 1994, baby conceived, song on radio, maybe Can You Feel the Love Tonight by Elton John? No. It was probably Cotton Eye Joe.
I love that song.
Child is 4. But according to your complaint, 2 years ago, you decided to become engaged to the defendant.
Right.
I was fully prepared to not like Mark with this case. But Judy, if this is the start of some kind of rant against having kids out of wedlock, I will gladly turn my ire against you, even if it means throwing my chips in with this presumably Jeff Foxworthy quoting miscreant of a plaintiff.
Another unemployed Jeff Foxworthy fan.
Not everybody's ready to get married before their kid is born, Judy, especially not if the Monster Truck show is on. Judy does some dumb arm motions to show that things happened out of order. The only thing out of order was the razor at Mark's barber. Okay, Judy? That's why he looks like that.
I think that was on purpose.
You broke up. She kept the engagement ring.
Judy counts off the years that passed between the failed engagement and their appearance here on Judge Judy. Get your limited edition Judge Judy timeline gel pens ready.
1996, 1997, and 1998.
Now, it's no coincidence that the Garth Brooks World Tour ran from March 12, 1996 to November 22, 1998, which is to say it was a busy time in Mark's life. 334 shows, Anaheim, Halifax, North Charleston, and that's to say nothing of the show at the Potter County Memorial Stadium in beautiful Amarillo, Texas. A guy's gotta have his priorities, Judy. Garth first, Garth second, Garth third, ring fourth.
Like Dr. Pepper.
Now that the tour had concluded, Mark wants his ring back. Or at least the money he spent on the ring. Proving that you can put a price on love, and the jewelry that it's meant to symbolize, Jacqueline has already sold the ring.
When did you do that?
About 17 days after he gave it to me.
I see you didn't waste any time.
An open tub of Utz cheese balls is guaranteed to last, another 30, 35 days. It'll taste exactly the same. But their engagement, their supposed engagement, it lasted half as long. That's a short shelf life. But why? Why, a love like theirs, shot down in its prime, very, very early in its prime, 1 3/14 of a fortnight into its prime. Whatever could have happened?
He had a gentleman come to my work and serve me with paternity papers for my daughter.
Bad news is this is very bad news.
Jacqueline, which I'm having more and more trouble saying the more I say it, says she had to sell the ring to afford a lawyer so that she didn't have to represent herself in court. It's not a bad strategy, except what kind of lawyer could you possibly afford with the money you got from selling a ring that Mark presumably bought on layaway at Kmart?
Lionel Hutt's attorney at law.
Judy agrees that if this ring was a Mother's Day present, then Mark isn't entitled to the ring back. Let this be a lesson to anyone who may be thinking about proposing, but has some suspicions about the provenance of their children and so may want to get the ring back at some point. Wait a few weeks after Mother's Day, though. Then we're bumping against Memorial Day, America's second biggest ring-giving holiday. I don't know what to do.
What makes you think this was a Mother's Day present?
Well, it was made from elbow macaroni. Actually, no. Jacqueline says that they bought it on Mother's Day, and it was with a Mother's Day card.
I also got these Mother's Day phone cards that came with the present.
Shoot, he definitely wants those back.
You said long distance was impossible.
A long-distance phone call was like 25 cents a minute in 1998, and that was only if you called after 7 p.m., excluding Fridays and Saturdays. She probably would have made more money pawning off the phone cards instead of the cubic zirconium balsa wood ring that Mark got her.
We also bought Mother's Day presents for his mother at the same time.
Yeah, he's gonna want those back too. Look, sure, he's not a women's size 7, but a keds is a keds, right? All he's gotta do is, squeeze his foot in there and voila. Jacqueline says that it was a regular engagement ring, like a wedding set. Now, what's regular to me isn't the same as what's regular to anybody else. Would I call a ring found at the bottom of a Count Chocula box regular? Maybe not.
Monstrously good part of a complete breakfast.
But I also don't have a belt buckle that could double as a mud flap. We're all coming from different perspectives, that's all I'm saying.
He never said, will you marry me? Here's, an engagement ring.
How romantic.
Jacqueline further says that after buying various gifts for various mothers, they went to Mark's grandmother's house where she presented the ring as her Mother's Day gift, not an engagement gift or ring.
Well, did you make plans to get married after you gave her the ring, sir?
We never had a date set.
Wait, you gotta do more? After the ring, you still have to do more? Yeah, if he knew all this work were involved, he wouldn't have cut out all those box tops and sent away with a self-addressed stamped envelope for the ring to begin with. According to Mark, they never set a date for their wedding. I suppose this shouldn't be too much of a surprise since the engagement fell apart 17 days later.
Well, you didn't have a date set when your daughter was born either.
Right, I know.
Look, Judy, according to unbelievablefacts.com, you know who else was born out of wedlock? Leonardo da Vinci, the guy who invented traffic helicopters. Ever heard of him? Oprah Winfrey, the lady who invented Mehmet the Wizard of Dr. Oz. Ever heard of them? Or what about William the Conqueror, who, based on this tapestry I'm looking at, I believe was one of the bad guys in the last Thor movie. Ever seen it?
Listen, we should talk.
We never set a date because we were still going up and down at the time.
Judy, perhaps thinking the two might have been on a roller coaster or a seesaw, teeter-totter, or two different sides of a waterbed, asks for clarification on them, quote, going up and down at the time. Mark states that even when he bought the ring, their relationship wasn't going so well.
Well, then what'd you buy the ring for? What'd you buy the ring for?
That would be an up. And then about 17 days later, well, that was a down. It's like high tide and low tide at the beach. Except instead of using a metal detector to get your ring back, you go on daytime TV. Mark says that he hoped it would improve things, that perhaps one of the sources of strife in the relationship was the fact that he had never given her an engagement ring. This was a way to make up for it.
Hate to break it to you, but that's not how that works.
She was having a problem with us not getting a for sure deal on us even being together.
I'm not sure if he was trying to marry the lady or sell her a second-hand washer-dryer set, but either way, I'm not surprised it didn't work. Judy rather abruptly changes topics.
Do you understand why he brought this paternity suit?
Well, yeah. I can tell you it wasn't because he was sure the kid was his, Judy. There are only so many reasons this might happen. See, when a daddy and a mommy start a family, but the daddy isn't sure he is the daddy, and the daddy is reconsidering the entirety of the relationship thus far with mommy, then Mark's specific reason does bring into question the chronology of events, like Judy had said.
I had started dating other people when she had moved out of the house. At that point, I figured the engagement was over.
Wait, when did she move out? When were they engaged? He had never given a ring. I thought the engagement started 17 days before the paternity suit, that maybe they had only been dating before then. I have no idea. We're gonna need a new timeline here, people, because I've got gel pen here and gel pen there. Between that and the limited edition Patreon-only Judging Judy glitter, I don't know what's what.
This is making it worse.
I had told her that I needed to have some type of visitation because she would cut my daughter, and I was raising her son also as my own.
Oh, okay.
Many of those words in a vacuum make sense. Similarly, you can take many of those words and rearrange them, like alphabet letters in alphabet soup, to make something that almost makes sense. But when put together, I have no idea what Mark is talking about. The puzzle pieces actually look better all separate and jumbled up. Okay, so Mark wanted to establish visitation rights so that he couldn't be cut off from seeing the kids, one of whom was his and one of whom wasn't. And he wanted to confirm that the one he thought was his really was. I'm going to decide that that's what Mark meant. I'm still trying to figure out when this fits in the timeline, but I don't want to agonize over it because the sound of me grinding my teeth has already gotten me 2 noise violation notices.
Please shut up.
Judy asked if they had already tried to work out visitation between the two of them before going to court.
It was working until Other people started entering the picture and trying to run the show, and then it did.
What do you mean, other people?
Like me, Judy was probably thinking of the song Other People by Beach House, which is incredible given that it came out roughly 14 years after this episode aired. Unless... was that song about this episode and this case? When singer Victoria Legrand says, "It's your world, why would you fake it?" Is she talking about the paternity of the child? And when she said, "Something happens and it's not enough," she must be talking about the ring Mark gave Jacqueline. Or maybe the other person is Mark's new wife, who Jacqueline is silently pointing to.
Everything seemed fine until she came into the picture.
Jacqueline says that the new wife did not want Jacqueline's son to be a part of the new family she was starting with Mark. So Mark could see his daughter, but not Jacqueline's son.
Mr. Holby, is there any ring of truth to that?
Somewhat.
Did Judy do that pun on purpose? She had to have, right? Because no one says ring of truth unless it's to make a pun about a man wanting his non-engagement engagement ring back.
I fell into a ring of truth.
Mark says it was Jacqueline's fault. Sometimes she allowed her son to visit him, and sometimes she didn't. And eventually Mark just put an end to it all together because it wasn't good for the kid. We pan to Jacqueline's son, who is next to her in the defendant's area. And I think of all the times to let the kid see Mark, on the set of Judge Judy so he can get his ring back might be the worst.
Sad. Why is it that children are always the ones that suffer in these situations?
Wait, Mark, you don't get to nod sagely and throw in your platitudes. The kid isn't right in the middle of things accidentally. You did it. You put the kid there. The guy driving with a blood alcohol level higher than his IQ doesn't get to say how sad accidents are. The guy with a bloody knife doesn't get to say how sad murders are. The president with the felony convictions doesn't get to say how sad crime is.
Mark came right out and told me that she did not want Robert over at the house because it seemed like every time he and I were feuding, Robert would go over and not be nice to her because he felt bad for me.
This is uncomfortable and humiliating.
Robert didn't need to be here for this. They thought Robert acted out before. What about after having to witness all of this dirty laundry being aired out in front of him? How about when he had to go to school and every kid and every teacher and every lunch lady knew about his messed up family life? This kind of trauma is why people do terrible things like rob and cheat and steal and listen to Fleetwood Mac.
It's hard because he still calls Mark Dad.
I have to think right around this episode's air date, November 3rd, 1998, Robert started calling Mark Mark again. Add that to your timelines. Jacqueline goes further to say that though Robert looks towards Mark as his father, Mark no longer responds that way because of his new wife. Now, a bit of a surprise, we're going to hear from the new wife. More often than not, the witnesses sit there silently, a somber kind of window dressing, like baby's breath on a funeral arrangement. But this lady isn't window dressing. She's not a flower. She's not baby's breath. That's ludicrous.
Get out the way. Get out the way.
Despite indications to the contrary, Mark's wife does have a name. Delia says that previously, when the kids actually were allowed to visit, Jacqueline would do her best to poison them against her. Not literally, of course. Well, maybe literally.
She would tell both of them at first, don't eat her food.
Touching and talking were also apparently forbidden.
No touching! No touching! No touching! No touching!
It may just be me, but I prefer kids to not talk to me, to not touch me, and to not eat my food.
I cook every night for my family, and they would not eat because she would not let them eat.
I don't have anything against Delia. I don't have any reason to insult her or think that any of this is explicitly her fault. Not when we've got Mark here. But I do wonder if the reason the kids weren't eating wasn't because they had been forbidden, but because Delia's cooking sucked.
Well, I'm definitely not eating that.
Delia says that the kids would tell them that they had been forbidden to eat her food. But again, isn't it possible that your pot roast, your beef stews, your meatloaves, all of them were inedible, charcoal-like, bituminous even? But that the only way the kids could safely get out of having to gag it down was to blame their own mother and her controlling ways? I'd do it. I'd say my mother didn't allow me to eat a person's food rather than having to pretend to like it. Frankly, not only would I do it, I have done it. I'll do it again. I blame my mother for all sorts of things I don't want to eat or do or hear. Here's the thing. So long as your mother is out of earshot and unlikely to hear about what you've said through the grapevine, go ahead and blame her for whatever you need to. The first gift a mother gives her children is the gift of life, certainly. But the second and more important gift a mother gives is herself, as a shield so her kids can avoid any kind of discomfort no matter how old they are, no matter the situation.
They would tell us. My mom said, I can't eat your food. I can't eat your food.
Delia seems genuinely upset in the change in Jacqueline's daughter's behavior towards her. She really wants that kid's hugs and kisses. Delia, you might just want to consider getting a dog. But Delia, if you do get a dog, don't worry about cooking it food. No, it's fine. Just get it the kibble. It's fine.
You're supposed to try to make these kinds of separations as easy as possible for children.
That's a nice message, Judy, but once they've reached your pretend courtroom and once they're arguing in front of one of the kids about the return of an engagement ring, that kind of sentiment feels a little too late. It's like telling someone where the bathroom is after they've crapped their pants. Not speaking from experience or anything.
He and I were still seeing each other 2 days before they went on their first date.
Okay, Christ, I'm gonna need another timeline.
She moved in a week later.
It's been 1 week since you looked at me.
A week after the first date? There really must be something magical, something magnetic about Mark. Either that, or Delia's got incredibly low standards. Or, well, I guess it's probably a little bit of option B leading to a little bit of option A.
2 months later, they were married.
I'm just as lost as Judy was with the timelines, but I believe that means their appearance on Judge Judy constitutes Mark and Delia's honeymoon. We go to a commercial break, and it's possible within the next 90 seconds or so, Mark and Delia are going to go further cement the relationship, maybe by getting matching tattoos or purchasing a boat. Maybe they'll set up their wills, or maybe they'll do that thing where they take the poop from one person's bowels and expose it to another person's bowels in order to kind of reset their gut biome. Technically, it's called a fecal transplant, but with these two fast-moving romantics, it's just called love.
I think I feel better already.
Fecal transplant jokes aside, we get this preview from the second half of the case.
Are you suggesting that he hit her in anger with a hockey stick?
Yes, he did, and he admitted it.
It was hard enough to like Mark when he was a guy with a mullet. Now he's a guy with a mullet with a hockey stick that he hit people with. And if I don't like him, what must the kid who's still in the courtroom think of him now? Coming back from the break, we find out that Mark has known for 2 years that Jacqueline has already pawned off the ring.
It's just, I figured that my statute of limitations was coming up in October.
Statute of limitations? Buddy, we're not talking about capital murder.
Unless we are.
Judy seems to think that something must have come up recently to make Mark covet the ring again anew. Perhaps a certain stupid hobbit had the ring when it really ought to belong to Gollum. I mean Mark, considering it was his precious. It turns out that they are still in civil court, fighting over custody of their daughter. Jacqueline isn't allowing him to see the kid despite court orders. So I suppose Mark's kind of using the ring as a bargaining chip, which I suppose would mean he values the ring the same as he values his kid, so the kid's worth about $45.
Sometimes she decides whenever she just doesn't want to give her to me. And I make a police report every time she doesn't let me see her.
This guy must be real popular around the station, barging in, interrupting their union-mandated naps.
And I should arrest you right now!
Jacqueline says that her problem with the visitation is that Mark is often late, sometimes up to 2 hours.
I've heard this story 1,000 times.
Wait, do you mean in general, Judy? You've heard this story 1,000 times in general, or with Mark specifically? Because it's obvious that he's a ladies' man. Remember his swift courtship of dinner cooking Delia? But I had no idea he'd done this whole thing 999 more times.
Me, when I asked him, why can't you come on time? He says, you have no life. You don't have anything else to do, so you could just sit there and wait for me. And I know it was a sarcastic remark.
Now I want to be clear. I want to be real clear. Jacqueline looks a little pale. Her voice is a little dull. But insofar as I can tell, she does have a life. She's alive. I'll update you if I notice any changes in her breathing, or if she faints, or if she starts looking like a certain crypt keeper. Mark says that he's never been more than 15 minutes late. Really? Never, Mark? Never? Even fellow ring lover Sonic the Hedgehog, even Sonic himself is a little late sometimes, Mark.
What are you, some kind of adrenaline junkie?
You made a child together when you weren't ready to make a commitment to each other to make a life together.
It has been a little while since we talked about the kid being born out of wedlock, hasn't it, Judy? And this was 1998, so it wasn't like Judy was relying on Siri to remind her to bring it up every 6 minutes. This is top of mind for Judy.
That was a very dumb thing to do.
It's kind of a moot point though, right? It's a little late to put the kid back in, definitely well past the take-back grace period for a human child. Judy feels that Mark must want to be a good father since he's pursued visitation from the beginning. Certainly a good father wouldn't forget one of his kids.
Father,
right.
Is this your only child?
That's my only child. Well, no, I have a 4-month-old now.
I know. It was the slightest of slip-ups, but I really wish the camera had focused on Delia during this moment. Also, we still got Robert, the kid who's used to calling Mark his dad, in the courtroom. And now, because he wouldn't eat Delia's cream of tongue soup, He's been disowned. Mark pays $579 a month in child support, which, see here, that's about $1,100 in money here today in 2025, or enough to buy 1/2 dozen grade C eggs at a local supermarket.
Yes, that sounds about right.
Judy harps on Jacqueline for interfering in Mark wanting to be in their kids' lives, saying that she should do nothing to get between that. Fair point. But we're not here for that, Judy. This isn't a custody case about a kid, it's a custody case about a ring. He doesn't want to be the ring's dad. Judy is well within her rights to pontificate about what Jacqueline should or should not be doing. Of course, it's her show. But if we want to talk about bad adult behavior, Mark had a new wife before the kid's eyes had even opened. That's a puppy thing, but it's a human baby thing too, right? Anyway, yeah. Mark should have a role in the kid's life. But whether or not he gets the ring, and whether or not the ring has to eat Delia's liverwurst Hot Pockets, that's the question. That's why we're here today.
Because you have 2 children, this gorgeous young man over here.
You're a monster! I have no father!
Mark admits to making some sarcastic remarks, but not the specific one about Jacqueline not having a life. He says it in a way, though, that suggests that he had wished he had said it, that he rused not being quick enough, clever enough to come up with a killer line like that. He thought he really zinged her when he said that she's got ants in her pants, but this is a whole nother story.
I am unsympathetic with regard to your request to get your money back for this ring.
Judy cites a handful of reasons. The fact that it took him 2 years to ask for it back, the fact that he knew she had returned the ring immediately, and the fact that this is all only coming about because of their other outstanding lawsuit. All of a sudden, Judy switches gears again back to Jacqueline, saying how she ought to do everything she can to make it easier, not harder, for Mark to see their kid.
I don't mind him seeing her.
A tepid endorsement, but go on.
We have a thing on that right now because he hit her with a hockey stick.
Jacqueline says that not only did he hit the kid with a hockey stick, but that he did it in anger.
We have court papers. The police were called in. Child services was called in.
I feel like we wasted a lot of time talking about who could or couldn't eat Delia's food when we should have been talking about the potential child abuse.
That has been investigated and that has been closed.
Jacqueline says that the kid's doctor called the police upon seeing the bruises, which were about the size of a silver dollar.
And for that black and blue mark, you took her to a doctor?
Yeah.
Jacqueline adds that the kid came home crying, saying that her dad hit her with a hockey stick, and that's why she took the kid to the doctor.
Yeah.
There's a lot of pathology here.
Oh, and this is a funny coincidence. This is actually the tagline for the American Society for Clinical Pathology's annual conference. Who knew? Judy asks Mark if he did, in fact, hit the kid with a hockey stick.
We were playing and she had hit me in the back of the head with the hockey stick. And I grabbed the stick from her and I went like that. It didn't, the bruise wasn't even a bruise.
Yeah, in a hockey game, that sounds like a 2-minute penalty, Mark. For you, that is. No ref is gonna put a 4-year-old in the penalty box. They're not monsters, they're not ice. Judy seems to side with Mark, accepting his story that he gently knocked the kid to dissuade her from hitting people in the head. Okay, fine. Still, don't hit your kid with a hockey stick.
Sounds stupid to anyone else?
Not smart, Mr. Hovey.
Right.
However, Judy's real beef is with Jacqueline, who she thinks is looking for excuses.
That didn't require you taking the child to a doctor for a black and blue mark that was the size of a silver dollar.
Here's the thing. You can tap a kid without causing a bruise. Bruises aren't some kind of automatic thing, that as soon as you're touched or as soon as you take out a hockey stick, you get a bruise. Maybe he wasn't trying to kill the kid, but maybe he hit her hard enough to cause a bruise. Whereas this kid was probably not physically injured and there was nothing a doctor could do about a bruise, there is something to be said for going to a professional and establishing a paper trail when it comes to Mark's behavior towards the child. Judy disagrees.
Because you didn't go to the doctor, madam, because you were concerned for the child's welfare, that she was injured in some way. You took the child there to document something.
Maybe she was concerned for the kid's health in the long run, Judy. Maybe she didn't want one bruise to be the start of something.
And I'll do it again if it happens again.
Judy says that what Mark did was no different than if Jacqueline had pulled their daughter's arm to get her out of traffic, dislocating it in the process, and then Mark took the kid to the doctor to get it examined. If the kid's arm were dislocated, it's not unreasonable to bring it to the doctor. That's the thing. It's not unreasonable to think that a child might be abused. It doesn't mean it's the case every time, but it's the kind of thing you want to, at the very least, consider as a possibility. Judy says that Mark's actions were a mistake. Fine, let's take that at face value for the sake of the case. But imagine if Jacqueline hadn't documented it, hadn't brought the kid to the doctor, and the kid started showing up with more bruises. How many bruises is enough to justify going to the doctor? How big do they have to be? Also, Judy's metaphor, the dislocated arm and the crosswalk, that whole routine, it doesn't really apply. The kid hit Mark with the hockey stick, Mark hit the kid with the hockey stick. In the crosswalk version, there is no tit for tat. It's not like the kid ripped Jacqueline's arm out, so she ripped the kid's arm out.
You can nitpick to an extent where it will make it so difficult for him that he'll say, listen, it's just not worth it and it's interfering with my life. Maybe that's what you want. And then you can tell your daughter that she has a miserable father and her father doesn't want to see her.
No,
maybe that's what you want.
She'll learn that on her own.
Now, I apologize for that long clip, but Jacqueline's barb at the end means that regardless of what Judy says or does or doesn't say or doesn't do, Jacqueline won this case. Judy goes on at length to explain that though Jacqueline may be poisoning her kid to dislike Mark now, she may come to resent Jacqueline in the end. Sure, that could definitely happen. Judy's not wrong, and I have no rebuke, no witty, snide comment. Once you have a kid, you open the possibility that despite everything you do, they might hate you. That's why I have a cat. I know that no matter what I do, she hates me. I know where I stand with her, and that's important to me. And after all that, Judy still rules against Mark on the only thing this case was supposed to be about to begin with.
I'm not going to exacerbate this matter any further by ordering her to pay you money for this ring. We understand each other?
Yes, I do.
Perfect. Your lawsuit's dismissed.
Jacqueline makes an astonishingly late claim for a countersuit for 2 quilts that Mark was supposed to give back to her. In a shock twist, Judy sits back down to talk shop about blankets.
What blankets are you
One
talking
blanket she's talking about, the other day she saw my kid, my 4-month-old, in it, and it's a Tweety Bird blanket.
I really, really hope this was a crass, misguided bit of product placement by Warner Brothers.
Tweety Bird blankets, preferred by 9 out of 10 4-year-olds in broken homes.
The second quilt is a blanket that Mark bought, of all places, at an auction, and he's very, very proud of having bought it.
The blanket that we bought at an auction that I bought, I bought with a credit card.
Mark says that the blanket has Robert's handprint on it and that he intends to give it to Robert later on. I don't like Mark, but I have to imagine that's true. I have to hope it's true. Otherwise, I confront the possibility that the man just wants a blanket with a little boy's handprint on it. Deciding that Robert deserves a little bit more trauma, she asks the kid if he wants the blanket back now. He says he does, and we now have a pretty good idea of why he came to be known as the fatherless blanket killer.
And it's all your fault!
Mark commits to getting Robert his blanket back within a few days, and this case is over. Which also means this episode was a single case episode, all entree, no dessert. We've come to the titular part of the show. It's my turn to judge Judy. As always, I go by an inexact, kind of sort of arbitrary set of criteria to determine guilt or innocence, but it all comes down to this. Did Judy deliver justice? Not just in her ruling, but in her demeanor, in the entertainment factor of the show, and in every other way possible. If I determine she did, then she's innocent. If, however, I determine that she did not, then she is guilty. I have to start my verdict off with an admission. I made a mistake. Not once either. Throughout the episode. Go ahead, listen back, I'll wait. I kept telling Judy that this nonsense about visitation and custody and who can and can't eat whose dinner, I kept saying all of that was irrelevant. I was pleading for Judy to get back to the ring, the actual case at hand. Here's the thing, the ring was a MacGuffin. It was never about the ring, not for Judy. She quickly surmised that Mark didn't deserve to get the ring back and that she wasn't going to order its return. The case could have ended there, but where Judy saw the opportunity to really, truly deliver justice was for the kids. Not something ephemeral like a ring that symbolized an engagement that lasted 17 days. Children who have to live through the painful squabbles of parents no longer in love and all of the consequences that come with the end of their romance. Judy used nearly the whole episode to try to encourage the two to do better and be better for the sake of their kids. That is a noble goal. I agree with Judy that parents should not poison their kids to not love their other parents. I agree with Judy that a father who wants to be involved with their kids' lives can be a good thing. I agree with Judy that the damage you do to a child today could have unforeseen ramifications tomorrow. However, I strongly disagree with Judy for how she chastised Jacqueline for bringing the kid to a doctor over a bruise caused by Mark. A father's right to be with a child is not absolute, and a father's effect on a child is not always benevolent. We should not encourage mothers to not trust their children when they say they have been hurt. We should not discourage children by telling them that the things they say or feel are insignificant. She didn't want to hug or kiss Delia, and she thought she had been hurt by her father. The goal should never be to keep a father in a child's life no matter what. That's following the letter of the law in a really self-defeating way. Given Judy's platform at the time, the amount of people that watched her show and thought her presence on TV, the whole fake courtroom, the robe, they thought that all of that conferred upon her some sort of authority. I think Judy did damage with her words. Plus, if she really cared about the kids, she wouldn't have allowed Jacqueline's other kid in the room. For these reasons, today, Judy is guilty. And with that sound, it's hangman time. Now, unlike the hangman you played as a child while you were probably supposed to be socializing with other children, this game of hangman has stakes. I'm putting stuff on the line. This week, I'm putting the wave you do at athletic events on the gallows. You know, that thing where everyone synchronizes standing up and waving their arms around and around an arena or a stadium. Yeah, everybody loves it. You know what I'm talking about. But if I lose, it's gone. No more wave ever again. As always, I'm using hangmanwords.com for this game, and I'm going to go back to their music words playlist. Hangmanwords.com gives me 6 incorrect guesses, 6 letters that I can guess incorrectly before losing. And remember, if I lose this week, you can wave the wave goodbye. I'd also like to stress that I know this doesn't work for an audio medium and that I don't care. Okay, so we're looking at 2 words. The first one is 7 letters, and then the second one is 5 letters. Let's start with G. There's no G, so now I have 5 more incorrect guesses, and my little hangman has a head. Let's guess E. There are 2 E's, so we have blank E, blank, 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 space, blank, 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 E, blank. I'm wondering if that second word has an ES, so let's guess S. It does not. There are no S's, in fact, so now we have a torso, and I have 4 more incorrect guesses. What about A, as in the thing that Fonzie says? Fozzie? Fonzie. Arthur Fonzarelli. Okay, we do have an A. So blank E, blank, blank, A, blank, blank, space, blank, 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 E, blank. All right, I have no idea yet. Let's go with N. There are 2 N's. Blank E, blank, N-A, blank, blank, space, blank, 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 E-N. What about O? There were 2 O's. Blank E-O-N-A, blank, blank, blank O, blank, E-N. What about L? Okay. Oh, cool. So it's L-E-O-N-A, blank, blank, space, blank O, blank E-N. For those playing at home. So I'm gonna guess R, I'm gonna guess D, I'm gonna guess C, I'm gonna guess H, and it is Leonard Cohen. You may know him as the guy that Bradley Cooper played in that movie, if I'm thinking of the right guy. If I'm not, then... Anyway, the wave lives another day. You're welcome, everybody. You'll still be able to do things that matter at a stadium, not just drink, not just boo, not just cheer. You'll do the one thing that helps your team win the game. You can keep doing the wave. We only have time for one more piece of nonsense, and that nonsense is an out-of-context quote from Judge Judy. I also think that women make a terrible mistake because they usually are so desperate to nest that they pick schlubs and worthless pieces of trash that they pick up in a bar. Thanks so much for listening. Like, share, fornicate, and subscribe, and please, whatever you do, don't give calling cards as a Mother's Day gift. It's just a bad idea.